Hello, this is Michael Hexter, and welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So this episode I'm calling Should Listless, Weak Campaigner Biden Face a Primary or Drop Out to Prevent Trump 2.0? So I'm continuing on in a theme that was inspired by Cenk and Anna on the Young Turks, about how basically the DNC, or the Democratic elite plus the media complex, is trying to figure out whether or should Joe Biden drop out for the purposes of preventing a Trump 2.0, and whether they should be grooming their favored younger candidate to replace them, to avoid a primary where potentially a progressive could win, maybe Marianne Williamson, maybe someone else. And so that they're trying to sort of manage or decoronate Biden and recoronate someone else, because coronation is the MO that the Democratic Party has developed over the last, 10 years or so to determine, or more really, to determine who is going to be the presidential nominee. And they're attempting to control through media channels and a bunch of other channels, rather than having, democratic institutions like a debate, for instance, determine, and polls and then primaries determine who is really going to be the standard bearer for the party. So, and anyway, so Cenk and Anna, this is from today. This is September 11th. In their main show, also, and Cenk in particular, is coming out very strong, and is putting out a poll, or a petition actually, to demand that Joe Biden drop out. Anna is a little less sanguine than Cenk about the potential of Biden to drop out. And so there's a whole complex of issues here that it's a very, very complex topic for someone who is progressive, or someone who votes Democratic, almost 100% of the time, and who identifies with the left wing of that party, or at least with the potential of a left wing of that Democratic Party to actually do something, or who knows, maybe an emergent party that is better than, that would be the standard bearer for the most progressive parts of what the Democratic agenda has been, or social democratic agenda, really, a la Roosevelt, or an updated 21st century Roosevelt plus. So, but obviously beyond that, something more transformational may be better, and maybe where we need to go. But anyway, so from that standpoint, we have a very complex subject matter to talk about today, and and I personally have not yet decided what would be the optimal, and I can't decide it personally. It needs to be decided by the flow of events and other people's decisions and so forth and so on. But I wanted to lay out the issue. So the issue, the primary issue, and this is really the strongest case that Cenk is making, because Cenk is, making a very straightforward case. He's saying, in my own words, and I'm calling Biden a weak and listless candidate. Okay, and that is whatever his age is. So age is being used as a stand-in for what I think is the real problem with Joe Biden. Is he's a bad politician, or at least he's a bad campaigner. He's a bad marketer. Okay, and a good portion of what an American politician needs to do is market what they've done, market themselves, so forth and so on. And for instance, Donald Trump is actually one of his great strengths is to be a marketer. Okay, he's a marketer for a kind of a nothingness and for a marketer for himself, really. So not for so he sells himself, or he sells the dream of who the rich man that he supposedly is, or he imagines, or he leads people to believe that he is. What that person, independent of, because he's not part of, quote unquote, the swamp, or at least that was the 2016 appeal that he had. But anyway, that he will, solve problems, and he will do things magically and magically, change it because of his decisiveness and his ability to just sort of say things and be honest, quote unquote, honest. So anyway, but I don't want to get too much into Trump per se. Trump is a dangerous demagogue. He's a he's a right winger. He's a neo-fascist. He's someone who will end democracy in the United States. He will not do much of anything valuable, or he will only do those things to serve his own interest. He doesn't have a sense of higher purpose at all in terms of serving the American people. He is serving himself. So Joe Biden, on the other hand, is a sort of more complex character. He does have sort of an idea about service that's also wrapped up in his own ego in ways that are unhelpful and disturbing. And I think Cenk Uygur makes the point that he is, because of his weaknesses as a campaigner and a candidate, he is not the person to stop neo-fascism or stop Trump or stop the Republican Party from ending democracy in the United States. He is, because of his weaknesses, in my words, not in Cenk's words, because of his weaknesses as a campaigner and candidate. And he is actually done. He is one of the better, if not the best, Democratic president that we've had in a couple decades, since before Clinton. I mean, maybe Carter. I mean, certainly. I mean, Johnson. I was a young child during the Johnson administration, so I mean, he did some bad things, some of the Vietnam War, so forth and so on. But he also did some very positive things. So it's very hard to make this assessment or whatever. But Biden has done some things that are very positive. I mean, Obama, also through the ACA was able to get, if the ACA but he also did some bad things. So so it's hard to balance out all the good and bad, because you are going to find them in every president, really, in almost every president. So, but anyway, wherever he stands, he has some achievements in his first term, and he is unable to sell them very well. And these actually, there was a controversy that has been going on, which I haven't really commented on this channel, but related to some interviews that were done, or debates really online that were done a couple days ago. Anyway, Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk made a very succinct and clear listing of all the things that Joe Biden has done that are good, and that from a left perspective, from a people's perspective, from an idea that the United States should progress. So his list was quite impressive, and he did remind me in his list of things that Biden did that I had forgotten about, so forth and so on. So and so it's a good list for the Democrats or for Biden to campaign on. But I, along with Cenk, I think, again, using my own words, I don't see Biden being able to sell those that achievement to the American people. Now, so I and for a number of reasons, some of them may be age related. But that's also there are a few different things going on. But I would just say that he is a weak campaigner, whether it's due to age, whether it's due to the fact that he is he just has never been a very good politician in terms of being able to do the marketing side of politics. And it seems as though actually his grasp of policy, his grasp of executive action, so forth and so on, is somewhat better than his political abilities. Okay, so we need someone to be a political animal, and also he's piled on, even just recently, more and more baggage that makes him so easy to attack. So Biden, you can find these, as Kyle Kulinski did, you can find these achievements and create a case for him, but he also has created all kinds of openings for the Republicans and for Trump and whoever to dismantle him on the campaign trail. So he opens up all kinds of weaknesses. He has a problem. Trump is a pathological liar, but Joe Biden has a problem with the truth as well. He does tell the truth, and then he tells lies. He tells truth, tells lies, and his most recent gaffe was, and I'll put a link in the description box to it, was about where he was the day after 9/11 in 2001, and he lied that he was in New York, okay, and either that or he misremembered it. So, but there's a good segment from the Young Turks about this either gaffe or lie or whatever it is that is just so typical of Biden. And furthermore, as Anna points out in that segment, all of these they're not just sort of, remembering, not forgetting some kind of semantic information that's unimportant. They are all biased in favor of Biden appearing to be more of a hero than he is. Okay. So in other words, self-aggrandizing lies. Okay. Like, for instance, his lie about Mandela and about being arrested, in Soweto, so that was another lie. So, and his now, Trump is also, very, very vulnerable to, attacks about lying, so forth and so on. But he has developed such a carapace, such a shell, so to speak, and his voters have developed such a shell about Trump's lying, his mendacity, his sociopathy, that it is hard to attack him on those things because he's just willing to lie again and again, even more. Meanwhile, Biden, supposedly this is a way that some Democratic voters and insiders sort of love Biden because he shows to kind of have a conscience about his lying and kind of have a sense of caring about other people, or he certainly exudes this sort of like, I'm a really caring guy kind of thing. And it's sort of, it's definitely, he definitely cares about his family, which is not the way Trump is. So in other words, the idea of Biden, the family man, okay, that's okay. That's all right. That's good. But it's not this wonderful achievement that it's made in the marketing of Joe Biden by other people or by himself. But anyway, it appears as though Biden is vulnerable because he's not as shameless. Okay. He has some shame about his lying. He has some, or the people, the Democrats his people who are going to represent him on the campaign trail, his campaign director, so forth and so on, they are supposed to have some shame, okay? They are supposed to be somewhat shame affected in the sense that they are supposed to be talking about the truth and about, or at least they are more truthing than the Republican Party. The Republican Party is just giving some BS, essentially, about candidates and about stuff, and they're just trying to make it sound good, and they're just trying to rile up the emotions of people. Meanwhile, Democrats are supposedly policy focused, and they could be even more. And that would be their strength if they were able to sell it through not just by boring people with the details of the policy, but saying, we stand for American people because we've done this, that, and the other, because we care about people and we're going to do more. And, we've done this and we're going to do more. We're going to do this and we're going to do more. We're going to do this and do more. And so you sort of get this kind of drifting out of Biden occasionally, but it's very, very weak. It's very, and so, I can imagine an 80-year-old being more dynamic and a better politician, okay, than Biden, easily. So it's not just age, okay? So the age is a stand-in for him not being a good politician, not being good at selling people about what he has done for them, okay? And doing it in a way that's convincing. Because also, I mean, as I'm saying, he appears to have some shame, but he's glib. Okay, he definitely has a glib politician way about him, and that's something that the Trump style is sort of tooled to dismantle, because he appears to speak entirely off the cuff and being quote unquote honest, okay, with people. Even as he's lying, he seems to be lying in a way that people find appealing, that they find speaks emotionally to where they're at, or gives them permission to say the things that they really believe, the whatever, the negative things that they hold in, the poisons that they think are poisoning them. They want to let them out, and that's the sort of the license of Trump, and so he gives people that license, and so his core, his base loves him, and then other people hate him and they dislike him intensely. But anyway, so the Biden campaign and the mainstream media that's protecting him and that's cushioning him are hoping and waiting for just the law, for, in other words, the legal cases. MSNBC is full of, not only, but is often full of talk about the legal cases against Donald Trump. They're very important. It's a very big deal. I don't blame them to focus some on those things. It's a little bit ad nauseum, because it is also distracting from covering their candidate or our candidate, and trying to show, trying to be objective about him and get him to either do better or to drop out. So anyway, so this is where the question or the action items that we have. So Cenk is saying that he should drop out, that simply he's not salvageable. And that is one possibility. And so the other possibilities are that there be a primary, okay, where he is tested, where either he shines or he doesn't, where he wins or he doesn't, okay, and a real primary process. And that's a matter of the DNC to decide to do that. Again, that's a stretch for them to do that. Again, as I say, they have been set on coronations for the last 10 years. They have wanted to control the process and really, from the point of view of their corporate overlords, tried to prevent any progressive from really making a serious headway in the party, and so that they are through various maneuvers, and so they are, and certainly in the presidential level, that's where a number of things, among others, the big money for advertising and so forth and so on occurs, which is often a concern of the consultant class that runs the DNC, or that are the sort of foot soldier, or the administrators, let's say, of the DNC, and they're the funders. There's a donor class that they also serve. But anyway, but one way that this problem could be solved is that we have a real primary, which again looks embarrassing from the point of view of the the Democratic Party because they've sort of been saying they won't have any debates, so forth and so on. But so I guess Biden dropping out is probably a higher probability than having a real debates and real primary action and real democracy within the Democratic Party. So, but with him dropping out, though, there does open up the possibility of there actually being a primary, okay, or that makes the primary process, the coronation looks more suspect if Biden decides he's not going to run or is persuaded not to run. So, and then, the final option, so the option one, or really their option 1 and 2 are related to each other, or that one is that Biden engages in a primary, the other is Biden drops out, and then we have some kind of primary. Or, Jake and Anna sort of think, well, there could also be this effort to coronate Biden too, maybe Newsom and Whitmer, or so forth and so on. One doesn't know. That would look very funny in terms of the process of having a primary and having debates and or a primary. So it's kind of uncertain how that would work in terms of the logistics, in terms of the explaining that, because that looks more undemocratic in a way than just allowing the incumbent to go through the motions of primaries, but essentially go almost unchallenged, or at least not sponsoring debates, so that they're exposed to interaction with other candidates and trying to prove that they're the best person. So, and then the final choice is the choice that I'm giving, there are three choices: the Biden dropping out, or Biden going through a primary process, and then the third one is that just what's currently the holding pattern of the media plus the Democratic Party is just hoping that somehow, Biden will eke out a victory, even though his poll numbers are miserable. They're in the 40s or high 30s, and which is, for an incumbent, is terrible. But that there's a hope that somehow the legal process against Donald Trump, that there'll be an implosion of the Republican Party because of this, because of how gross, how disgusting and or repellent, let's say, the Donald Trump becomes through the exposure of the facts of the various criminal acts, essentially, of Donald Trump and his colleague, or his co-conspirators, and so that would sort of win the election for the Democrat or Biden, and Biden could just hold on by just being who he is and gaffing and sort of eking out a victory by sort of muddling through. Okay, and that is, I don't foreclose. Unlike Cenk is a little too certain about that being. It's let's say it's a bad strategy. It's a terrible strategy. It's not. The first two options are much better, and also more democratic, much more democratic. Okay, but or potentially again within the dropping out and then the coronation, there could be some moves that are just grossly undemocratic and would undermine the Democratic Party completely if it just sort of shoves a candidate down the throat of everybody in a way that didn't have any. There were no debates, no, and then primaries were made superfluous to the process. But anyway. The default option is a very high risk strategy, very, very high risk. It's just because of the weakness of Biden and the weakness of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is a worse politician than Biden. She is younger, so she might learn how to be a better politician if she were exposed and on a path of competing with other candidates and learning how to be a better politician. But she has certainly in the past has been just a very, very unattractive in terms of her personality politician, and she was loved by the donor class and by this K-hive, this clique of mostly, sort of very upper middle class people who identify with her, the way her manner, or just her, they think of her as one of them, and they they also maybe use her as a mascot because she's biracial and so forth and so on. So they think of her as their talisman, so to speak. But also she's loved by Wall Street and by others because she just has been a very, very strong corporate Democrat, very, very loyal to Wall Street and other corporate interests. So anyway, but unsympathetic to the people, to the masses of people who will vote, and Biden is somewhat better than that, but again, a very high risk, very, very high risk candidate, and so I would say even though I'm not as compelling and simplistic as Cenk is about this particular issue, I think his strategy has merit, and the pressure on getting Biden to either be a better candidate, to drop out, both of those things are absolutely crucial. I believe in those, that they need to happen if we're going to preserve a democracy in the United States. Okay, if we're going to have one. Okay, after November 2024. In any case, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Please like the video if you find it useful at all, or just stimulating, interesting. And please subscribe to Politics 2100 to get notice of future videos. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.